after that only they have made a constitution for their states. So that's what every nation wants to create and maintain a perfect constitution for their sake. So that's what every nation is having perfect constitution for their development. So in the sense of this law, every nation wants to become independent, and also every nation wants to maintain these laws for their individual development. So actually here this kind of laws also enforced by the state. So no one has right to enforce this law. Only elected or constitutionally developed by the people can maintain and enforce this kind of law. So in every modern state is built up by the democratic method. So in every democratic country, law is enforced by the state only. So if we observe about there are different types of governments are there. So like presidential form of government, or a parliamentary form of government, or federal form of government, or unitary form of government. But every government is entitled to enforce this law for the sake of their people's development. So law is also concerned only with the external aspect of human actions. So we have to bond with the law made by the state. We have to follow the law made by the state. So that's what the law can control human actions. The law can control human activities in the society. So that's what law is in the name of externally or internally controlled by the state only. So even though law also in nature, law is universal for all. There is no partiality, there is no discrimination for all. So law is, as per the law, everyone is equally treated by the state. So as per law, there are equality among the others. There are no discrimination in the name of caste, in the name of creed, in the name of race, in the name of language, in the name of gender. There is no discrimination, there is no partiality, there is no difference between rich and poor. Everyone equally treated as equally treated as what equally treated as so there is so as per law, all are equal among the constitution. Even though in our constitution, in Indian constitutions also, we are having this principle in Article 14 that is explains about all are equal before law. So there is no discrimination, there is no partiality among the people. So that's what every nation in the country is entitled to get access, entitled to get equal opportunities in the name of employment, in the name of better livelihood, better living atmosphere, or in other facilities like common needs like that are food or shelter or something like that. Everyone is equally treated by the state. So if we observe, the aim of the law is individual and general welfare. So as per the law, this there is a differences are there. So for the in the form of implementation, every year so in the form of implementation of law, there is no exemption for the individual. It is equally treated as everyone in the state. So from the common man to president of the nation, or from common man to ruler, ultimate ruler of the country, also treated as same. So that's what law is equal for all. If we discuss about the sources of law, there are several sources are there for the making of this law. So if we observe about the sources of law, there are namely customs is the first sources of law. So in every community, the earliest form of law is traceable to the well established practices of the people. So these practices once started gradually, but imperceptibility developed because of the utility that is inherent in them. So even now customs seem to play an important part where the life of the people quite simple, because the laws are control human nature internally and externally. So there are no differences are there. And also the law of today is based on customs of the people. So a translation of an age old established practice into specific written terms by the state. So in due course, a practice became a usage. So if we discuss about in present times, we are having so many laws, so that are established by the our customs only. Uh, Before, from the past period, from ancient times, we are following some kind of traditions, some kind of use customs. So that's what become as law for in present time, which after sufficient standing was become a custom into the law. So uh, this usage is an ancient source of law, and also customs developed slowly by and impartiality. So they represented the social needs of the community, and also were based on the general usage of family, tribe, or class. If we go uh, to observe about our ancient Indian history, also we are having so many different types of rulers are there throughout the country, from north south. There are different types of usages, there is different types of laws are there. So after the becoming modern states, after becoming independent states, we are having and we have wrote a perfect constitution suitable for the country. After that only, everyone treated as equal among the constitution. So if there is no constitution, there is no equal treatment for the people. So that's what every nation is having constitutions to implement the laws. So every law should be clear, means if we maintain laws for the sake of people better opportunities, that laws must be written in form and also clear to understand by the people. So if we make a law for the sake of people, or government can make laws for the sake of people, that laws should be in the form of written form, and also it should be understandable for the people who are living in the country. So that's what these laws are maintained and enforced by the judiciary systems in the nations. So for example, if we take an example of Indian country, Indian nation, we are having a independent judiciary system in the name of Supreme Court, in the name centrally in the name of Supreme Court. In every state, we are having high courts. So these judiciary systems are responsible for maintaining the law and enforcing the law, and also implementation of the law. So if there is no independent judiciary, every government can make laws for the own sake, or then for their own purposes. So there is no universal or there is no individual treatment for all. So everyone in the country should entitled to get access from the judiciary system. There is no discrimination for getting legal aid from the judiciary system. So that's what in Indian constitution we have maintaining a principle, that is free legal aid facility for the needy people. So after getting that, every individual who are living in the country are unable to get legal aid by paying money. That's what that situations government is providing free legal aid from the judiciary system. So in the legal sense, customs are today is now not a law unless until recognized by the state. So no state, however, can afford to ignore the customs of land. So after getting practices in a regular basis, the state should consider that customs as law. So after that only that will be made it as law. So in the practice, there is no untouchability. There is no untouchability in as per the Constitution of India. There is no untouchability among the people in the name of caste, in the name of religion, in the name of any other discriminations. But in the practice, we are observing and we are daily watching several discriminatory incidents are going in the state. So the state should protect the rights of the people. The state should protect the freedom, personal freedom of the people. So there are several uh, discriminations are going on, but the country or the state should maintain the perfect administration or perfect customs to maintain the this law. So and one more source of law is religion. Religion is one of the important sources of law because in modern state system we are came from the ancient period. So at that time we are having different types of religions are there in the country. If we take an example of India, in India there are so many number of religions are there, and also the Constitution of India is enforcing and implementing a secular formula towards the individual, towards the secular means there is no official religion for the state. So that's what there are many religions are actively working in the country and working for their purposes. So there is no partiality or there is no discrimination among the all religions. So as per Constitution of India, we are having secularity means every individual can adopt a religion or he can change a religion or he can leave a religion, and in the name of religion he can raise funds, or in the name of religion he can establish any charitable or any institutions towards the development of their religion. So there is a opportunities provided by the Constitution of India. So, and also as per the sources of law, in olden days also, the religion is influenced and the religion is important for the sources of law. So, in human life, religion is played a vital role in the establishment of law. Life was closely associated with religions because everyone is following any one religion. So there is different types of religions are there, but everyone needs to follow their individual own religion. So there is no compulsory, there is no mandatory instructions for the people to follow such a religion. So everyone in the state, in every nation, is having freedom to adopt a religion. So there is no force. But in modern times, in recent times, there are several organizations and several groups are there to force to adopt their religion. So that is different. But since time immemorial, people have either faith in God or some supernatural powers, and they try to lay down rules of the regulation of their behavior. In course of time, most of the principles of law have been translated by the state in terms of specific rules. So religious ideas and practices were used for promoting the spirit of society and also for solving certain problems. So if we take an example of these situations, sometimes many religions have played vital role in the development of human nature and controlled human activities. For example, many religions came to India and established their religious systems, religious activities, and encouraged the Indian people in the name of education, in the name of health facilities, in the name of their personality development. So, every religion has its own importance, but sometimes religions are controlled human nature. So, sometimes religions are forced to adapt people to maintain the principles of religion. So, for example, religion played a powerful role behind the law in Egypt, Greece, Rome, and India. For example, in medieval time, Christianity played a important role in the Western countries and also some colonial states around the world. So, Christianity expanded entire the world in the medieval period, like 15th, 16th century. They have made many colonial states in the world in the name of their business expansion or commerce development, means commerce relations, like business relations with the other states. At that time, the religion played an important role in the name of their establishment of companies, and also they established their religious places like churches or other something else. So, in the name of that religious activities, everyone is able to adapt the religion. So, in that time there are many sources also influenced to establishment of the law. So if we discuss about adjudication, is one of the sources of law. As the process of social organization became more and more complex, the force of customs declined, disputes among the people based on
అన్నా
their customs,
అన్నా
and also
ఆన్లైన్
the
క్లాస్
people based on their customs were referred to the judges, the wisest men of the community, who delivered verdicts to settle the points of the questions. So later, their decisions came to have a special sanctity, and this has been given writing. They came to known as case of law. So, and one of the important sources of law is judicial decision of adjudication. That if we take an example of law, judiciary is the important sources of law. So there are scientific commentaries also important for the sources of law, and also nature to till date, customs, religion, and scientific commentaries have played important role in the making of law. So legislatures and equity also maintaining the same incidents to the making of law. If we go to discuss about the types or kinds of law, there are different types of laws are there. If we there is no strict classification law is there, but there are different types of laws are there. Law has been classified into various forms according to the basis taken by the juristic thinker on his subject. It may be on the basis of the relations, or which it seeks to adjust between the people and their communities. So if we discuss about the different types of law, first we have to know the natural law. Natural law or law of nature is being authorized by nature and not the creation of man. So the dictates of natural law are understandable by the rationality of man. So man, and it is not written in the form. So at that time, they have followed their religious values, or they followed their individual beliefs to follow the natural law. So there are different types of religions are established from the medieval period to nowadays also. And one more law is positive law. So in this positive law, the law of a state or positive law is concrete in the sense that it is created by man. So after become a sovereign state, every state has created their own constitution and made the rules for the sake of their people who are living in the country. So it is written in form and has its place into the statute book. So that's what we are calling constitution is a written form of document and having many rules for the sake of individual development in the country. So while positive law has its sanction in respect or for fear of some supernatural power, so the sovereign authority enforces the latter. So for this reason too, it is called determinate or positive. It is called positive law, for its terms are quite specific and binding. So sometimes there are different types of laws are there, like national laws and international laws also there. For national law, a law is formulated by a sovereign authority and applicable to the people living under the its territorial jurisdiction is called national law. Like India, we are having a uh, 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 means Indian Penal Code. That IPC is equal for the all states, like 29 states we are having, right? So for 29 states people, the Indian Penal Code is same for all. So there is no partiality, there is no discrimination, there is no diverse in implementation of the Indian Penal Code. Like that, every nation is having a national law. So sometimes it determines the private and public relation of the people living in the state. So national law has the force of sovereign authority and thereby enforceable in nature. So sometimes sovereign nations maintaining a perfect laws for the sake of their individual development, and also it is mixing with the ideas of private personalities, and also between the relations between the public and private personals in the who are living in the state. For international law, this law regulate the conduct of states in their intercourse with each other. So if we take an example of international law, there is an international law established by the United Nations Charter that international law is equal for the all states to promote peace and prosperity and international justice among the states. So, as per the international law established by the United Nations organization, every state is equal in the United Nations organizations, and also every nation has equal right to participate and express their ideas in the General Assembly session. So every nation is equal to follow the international law established by the United Nations organization. So these laws are not framed by any sovereign law or making authority, nor is there any sovereign authority to enforce these laws. So sometimes international laws are made by the some developed nations. So international law derives its sanction and the good sense of the civilized nations of the world. So they have the force only to the extent to which they are recognized and accepted by the different states of the world. So, for example, it is a universally accepted international law that the plan of no foreign country can fly over the territory of any country without seeking its permissions. And this is international law is universally accepted by all the countries of the world. If we take an example of our country, if we want to maintain international relations or relations with the other states or neighboring states or like superpowers, we have to maintain international law, and we have to follow international law to maintain such relations, like in the name of economic relations, in the name of foreign relations, in the name of imports and exports. We have to maintain the international law, we have to follow the international law. So in the implementation of international law, there are some rules and regulations are there. If we want to export something, we have to pay some taxes to other country which we are exporting to the country. If we export to the China, we have to pay some kinds of taxes to China. If we want to import, if we want to import from the goods from the other nations, that nations have to pay taxes for the our country. So like that, there are many rules and regulations made in the name of international law. So these laws should be universally acceptable by the all nations in the world. So this international law is universally acceptable by the nations which are recognized by the United Nations organizations. So in presently there are 193 nations are recognized by the United Nations organization. So 193 nations are following the international law, and also international law made by the UN, United Nations organization. So this United Nations organizations is established for the purpose of promote peace and prosperity among the nations. So there is no discriminations, there is no uh, imperialism, or there is no colonial formation among the states. Every state has individual own constitutions, and also they have to maintain the international law. So there are some types of private and public laws also there. Private law means it regulates relations between individuals, and public law is concerned with the organization of the law. So the public law means the government which is established for the purpose of, for the sake of human development. The government has made some kinds of laws which is called it as public law. So they can make welfare schemes, they can make some kinds of rules and regulations for the development of individuals who are living in their country. So that is called public law. So public law is concerned with the organization of the state, the limits on the functions of the government, and the relationship between the state and the citizen. So in public law, also the state is present as an arbiter, although it is the same time one of the parties interested. So there is in private law determines the relationship of citizens to one another. So they regulate the relationship among the individuals. In private law, the parties concerned are private individuals above and between whom starts the state as an impartial arbiter. And also there is civil and criminal law is also there. Civil law deals with the civil wrongs committed by the a person going to harm the interest of another, like non-payment of dues or the violation of the terms of a contract, like that. Many violations made by the individuals that will be treated and that will be punishable by the judiciary system. So that is called civil law. And the latter relates to criminal act of a person, like theft, robbery, and murder. In each case, there is a procedure is different. So in Indian Penal Code, there is different procedures also there for the civil disputes and criminal disputes. So there are several rules and regulations made by the Indian constitutions. If we discuss about the difference between the law and morality, the law is concerned with the external acts of a man and not motives. So if we discuss about morality, concerned with both external acts and internal motives. And also law is concerned of the state. Here morality is the concern of conscience of the individual. So a law is concerned with part of man's life, morality is concerned with the whole man's of law. So force is the sanctioned behind law. Here, moral conscience is its sanction. So, law is objective, morality is subjective. Law is within the territory, morality is universal of the state. So, there is definite agency to enforce law, but there is no definite agency to enforce morality. If we discuss about the concept of rule of law is established by the every modern state system in the country. If we discuss about rule of law, it's a legal maxim. The states, no person is immune to law. So no one can be punished or made to suffer except for a breach of law proved in an ordinary court. So as per rule of law in India, there is no discrimination among the people. Every man, every individual living in the country treated as equal by the law. So as per law, all are equal among the constitution. So no one is above the law and everyone is equal before the law, regardless of social, economical, or political status. So the rule of law includes the results of judicial decisions determining the rights of people or rights of private persons. And also the rule of law is one of the cordial features of British constitution. We have adopted this rule of law from the British constitution and established and inserted in our Indian constitution in the part of fundamental rights. Article 14 says all are equal before law. So this kind of rule of law is implemented by every nation in the world. So in England, there is no difference between public law and private law. But here in India, there is difference between the public law and also there is difference between the private law. Public law means established by the legislature system and implemented by the executive and moderated and observed by the judiciary system. For private law, that is different from the other nations. So every person is subject to the ordinary law courts. Every action of the government must be authorized by the law. So administrative laws and is distinct from the rule of law. There exist in the continental countries of Europe and particularly in France, the administrative law are more exactly special law for officials. It may be defined that the body of rules which which is different from the implementation of the administration law. So the concept rule of law is defined by the Professor A.V. Dicey is responsible for interpreting the administrative law and also rule of law. So there
Sir,
are
there is
some
much
critics also
disturbance.
there
Please mute
in
all
his
the mic.
concept. The critics argues that it is based on custom and precedents than statutes. So there are in implementation of rule of law, there is so many differences are there. Law and liberty is in changing according to the nature of the state. So the relationship between the law and liberty is uh, uh, equal but sometimes different because the procedure established by the law which is created by the state is different from the one nation to another nation. Sometimes in ancient times the anarchists and syndicalists hold that law and liberty are opposite to each other. So they denounce the state as an instrument of exploitation and oppression and desire a classless and stateless society in which there is no law to limit the liberty of the individual. So the more is the law, the less is the liberty of individual. So as per the many political scientists, law and liberty are equal in the implementation by the state. So individuals like J.S. Mill and Herbert Spencer take state as a necessary evil, and for that desires minimum possible interference by the state. So if we discuss about this, state is a necessary evil for that desires minimum possible interference by the state, but the socialists treat law and liberty in complementary terms. To them, state is a welfare agency, and also it can ensure better social welfare. To leave each man to do what he pleases would lead to anarchy and disorder. That's what law is established for, control over the human actions in the society. If there is no law, everyone can become rude, and everyone can violate the constitution, and they can become the individually cruel in the nature. So that's what law is established for the control of the people who are living in the society. So thus liberty is law, or at any rates a part of law. The state is the only source of legal authority which can provide immunity from the unnecessary interference of others. So the idealist says that state is a moralizing agency, means it can do anything by means of law to protect liberty. So every law is the state must be observed by the people. They hold that man is free only when he obeys the laws of the state. So we have to remember this thing. Every man is free when we when he follow or he obey the law which is created by the state. If he violate the law can punish him. So that's what it can use the force to create freedom. Sometimes the fascist give a practical expression to the idealistic view. According to them, state can do no wrong. Man should fall down and obey law so as to worship the state. In fact, a fascist society law destroyed the liberty. Thus, the issue of relationship between liberty and law is really of a delicate nature. So, state can protect liberty, can certain liberty through law. Thus, the balance remains in the use of laws created on the basis of general will in a legitimative way. So, this is the importance of rule of law. So, if we discuss about the concept of liberty, liberty also important concept in the our political science subject. The theme of liberty is integrally connected with the theme of rights. So it is the provision of rights with their due enforcement by the state that ensures freedom to a citizen, thereby enables him to seek the best possible development of his personality. The term liberty comes from the Latin word liber, that means free. The meaning of liberty generally taken a wrong way, as it is identified with the absence of restraints and limitations. No man can be absolutely free. In the sense of unstrained
Sorry, there is
freedom,
much disturbance.
liberty is not possible in society. Thus, viewed liberty means man's right to do what he wants for the sake of making best possible of his personality. Sometimes social life is regulated by a set of principles or norms that make man's life civilized. So these restraints lay down the line of distinction between good and bad, right or wrong, or moral and immoral, legal and illegal. In fine, the real meaning of liberty should be understood with this point of view, that the liberty of an individual is relative to the others. So, liberty is defined by the Mahatma Gandhi as follows: liberty does not mean the absence of restraint, but it lies in development of liberty. According to John Seeley, uh, liberty is the opposite over government. The meaning of liberty has two dimensions, negative and positive. In negative sense, it implies the absence of restraints as far as possible. negative liberty meant that there should not any hindrance in the path of one's actions. So here the point of stress is that restraint is bad because it affects uh, curtailment of individual freedom. J.S. Mill and F.A. Hayek, John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, Adam Smith, Jeremy Bentham are exponents of negative liberty. Mill maintained that there should not any hindrance in the path of man, and also Hayek says that every individual has some assured area of personal freedom with which others cannot interfere. The negative view of liberty is not appreciated in the present times. Now, individual liberty is sought to reconciled with the state authority. Restraints are essential in the if the state desires to achieve the goal of public welfare. So here the positive concept of liberty admits that there must be compulsion of if liberties have to practical meaning. So if we discuss about kinds of liberty, simply stated that liberty implies a condition of freedom, especially opposed or political subjection, imprisonment or slavery. In wider sense, it is multiple concept having this important varieties. So here liberty means there is no restrictions. Everyone, every individual is equal to maintain, equal to every individual is equal opportunities established by the government, and also there has freedom to express their ideas. They are having expressed their views on every action taken by the government. So we have right to speech, we have right to establish any organization, we have right to oppose, we have right to criticize governments also. We can criticize individuals also. We have freedom of speech means freedom and liberty, there are synonyms. So that's what freedom is equal to liberty. That's what we are having in Indian constitution. We are providing individual liberty, personal liberty towards the individual development. So that's what there are several types of liberty is there. If we discuss about first one, that is natural liberty. It implies complete freedom for a man to do what he wills. It means no restriction of any kind whatsoever on the doing of a man. Just as all creatures live according to their will in the world of nature, so should be pattern of man's life. Let a man do what he wills, but liberty in modern society is within restraints because there are some restrictions are there. We have freedom, we have right to freedom, we have several types of freedoms also there. For example, in India we are having 7 or 8 types of individual freedoms are implemented by the Constitution of India in natural days or in normal days. In case of emergency, there is restrictions over this kind of freedoms. So that's what the state can control over the this kind of freedom or liberty. So the idea of natural liberty is therefore to an errant nonsense. As a social creature, man should lead his life regulated by the social restraints. So according to the natural law or justice, every man has to lead his life as his own interest. So as per Constitution of India in part 3, in the form of fundamental rights, the Constitution of India provides under Article 19 to 22 the right to freedom is there for the providing of individual liberty and several types of 7 freedoms also there for the individual development. If we take an example of another type of liberty, that is social liberty. Social liberty relates to man's freedom in his life as a member of social organization. As such, it refers to a man's right to do what he wills in compliance with the restraints imposed on him in the general interest. This kind of liberty consists in the rights and privileges in the society, which is protected by the state. Thus, social liberty liberates a man from the fear and arbitrary aggression. So, and one more type of liberty is personal liberty. Personal liberty means the availability of those conditions in which the individual can act, and also without being under any type of arbitrary restraint. So every individual has the right not to permit any other individual to interfere in his personal affairs. Here we have to remember that every individual has its own liberty. They can act as his wish, but he should not uh, interfere into others' actions, or he should not what we call, he should not to uh, discriminate others. He should not interfere his others' personal affairs. Every individual should have the liberty to dress, food, standard of living, marriages, education of children, etc., etc. Personal liberty stands for the personal security and also personal freedom in movement and enjoyment of personal property. So the state should not interfere in the personal matters of the individual. Such liberty is essential for the free development of human society. So if we discuss about political liberty also important for the development of a person. So political liberty refers to the power of the people to be active in political affairs of the state. Thus, it is integrally connected with the life of man as a citizen. It requires two things: political education and free supply of news. For example, in political liberty, we are participating by electing or by participating in the positions to elect our representatives. From voter to ruler, we have political freedom in the form of Constitution of India provides political freedom to the people who are living in the country. So political liberty includes liberty to vote and to contest in elections, to hold public office, to express political views and criticize government, to have free and fair election, freedom for public opinion, etc. So that's what political freedom is providing, free opportunities to participate in the politics. So So every individual is having maintaining and also following political liberty. In economic liberty allows individuals to be engaged in some gainful occupation. It means liberty to earn one's own daily bread. In simple words, every individual, regardless of caste, color, creed, place of birth, play, religion, should have liberty to earn money through some occupation. So the individual should be free from the constant fear of employment and insufficiency that perhaps more than any other inadequacies affect the whole strength of the personality. So that's what there is. Economic liberty also there. Everyone can get employment as their wish. So there is wish of people can produce goods and they can supply, they can establish industries, and also they can employ other peoples also. That's what in economic liberty every one can right to gain properties or gain money from the those activities. If we discuss about domestic liberty. It is by and large a sociological concept. It takes the discussion of liberty to the spheres of man's family life. So there was time when the authoritarian state was neglected in the authoritarian family. Thus, with the advent of democracy, liberty pervaded the sphere of family's life as well. It intends the freedom enjoys in a family to have respectable relations with others. If we discuss about national liberty, the it's synonyms with the national independence, and there is also international liberty is there. There also moral liberty also there. So it's, as such it implies the nation should be under the subjection of another. So it stands for national independence, freedom from imperialism, etc. Like individuals, nations also think in terms of liberty. As a matter of fact, national liberty is another name of national sovereignty. In international liberty, the ideal of liberty covers the world as whole. Thus, in the international sphere, it means the renunciation of war, reduction in arms production,
Time,
and
sir.
abandonment of use of force, and pacific settlement of international disputes. So it is also desires adequate curbs and the strength of military force, so that may not crush the liberties of local people or people of different country. So if we discuss about some conditions of liberty, every state guarantees liberty in its own way. Liberty can be safeguarded the following ways, like uh, uh, implementation of fundamental rights and separation of judiciary from executive, decentralization of power, political party system, rule of law, free press, eternal vigilance. That means in implementation of fundamental rights, the constitution defines the power of the government and sets the limit to its own action. So for now, I am closing today's session. We will meet tomorrow. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Bye, sir.
Link.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon.
लिवा पच कदा